Hi everyone, welcome to Trailblazers maintenance video number 1. This video is about how to change a flat tire. One of the most essential skills you will need out on the trail, because if you get stuck out there with a flat tire and don't know what to do, it's a long walk back to the car or the trailhead. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to do when you have a flat tire, of course, is to take off the wheel. So there are different styles of wheels, the way they attach to the bicycle, and there are front and rear wheels, and both have a different technique. So I'm going to show you several different styles of ways that the wheel will mount to the bicycle, whether it's the fork or in the rear, and also how to remove the wheel from that location. If your bicycle has rim brakes, such as these V-brake, where there's a brake pad that touches a rim and you squeeze the lever and it squeezes the rim to help you stop, first thing you're going to need to do is to detach the brake from itself so that it opens up so that you can remove the wheels. And that is done by holding the cable where it latches into the right arm of the brake, squeezing the brake until you can remove the cable from the catch, and then the brake, as you can see, will open up wide so that the tire can be removed. To remove the wheel from this bicycle, you will need to open up and loosen a little bit what's known as the quick release. This has what's called a quick release skewer, which clamps down your wheel to this fork. So all you have to do is, with a firm grip, pull and open this. But you'll notice that you still won't really be able to get the wheel off. That's because there are special protective, what they call lips, on the bottom of this fork. So what you'll need to do is to unscrew one side or both. All right. Sometimes you need to hold both sides, as I'm going to have to do with this bike. You're going to unscrew this side or that side a few turns until it's loosened up. You don't need to loosen it all the way until this, one of the nuts falls off. Just enough so that it can slide out of what's called the dropout. I didn't quite go far enough, so in this case I will give it a couple more turns, and let's see now if this falls out. Ah, there it goes. All right, I've removed the wheel from this bicycle. Regardless of the type of derailleur that you have, one of the things that you need to do is to shift your bike in so that the chain is in the outermost gear. So that means operating your gears manually while the bike is stationary. So how would I do that? Here's how I do it. I'm just going to take the bicycle. I'm going to shift down a couple of gears at a time. Lift by the seat or seat post. I went down a couple of gears. I can set it down. I'll shift down a couple more. And now you can see I'm all the way in that outermost gear, ready to remove this rear wheel. Now with this type of derailleur, this is a newer style derailleur, what you need to do with this particular one, there's a little gray lever here that needs to be pushed down so that it can actually move. If you don't do that, then this is stuck in place. You can't move this. In order to remove the rear wheel, you need to actually be able to move this out of the way. Don't worry, you're not going to break this if you just pivot it like this. So on this particular bike, this is an older bike, so it has a quick release style. Same thing as the front, except we don't have to worry about the catches on the dropout. This should just be able to fall right out. So what I usually do, I will just put my hand on top of the wheel. I'll pick it up with the saddle, and that will pull the wheel, I'll pull the bike away from the wheel. Now the next part of this is to show you I will actually move the derailleur out of the way so that you can get this rear wheel off. So I'm going to pull this out of the way and then move this, kind of pivot it to the right, to the side, to loosen it, detach it from the chain. And now that it's away from the chain, I can sort of push the wheel away and set the bike down gently so that I do not mess up that kind of delicate part. Now that the wheel is off, that derailleur part is kind of exposed. So always lay your bike down, derailleur side up. Now I can go to work on fixing this wheel, fixing this tire. I might be saying, Coach, my bike doesn't have quick release. What do I do? Well, some bikes are equipped with what's called a through axle type, and so that might have a lever on it, or it might just be attached to your bike with basically an Allen key, right? So this basically is a giant screw that bolts your wheel right to the fork or the rear dropout, and it might look like this. So I have a bike that here that has that style of through axle, and this requires a tool in order to get it off. And it has a little arrow on here, it tells you which way to turn it to tighten it. So you're going to need some type of tool in order to do this, unless yours has a lever. Some of these have a lever that you can use, so you don't need a tool. Mine, you need a tool. So you pick the right one. Usually it's 5mm in the front. Find it till you find the one that fits right. This is the one. So in order to remove this wheel, it's lefty-loosey, right? So twist to the left until you kind of start hearing it start to clunk, and that means the threads on the other side are all the way out, or until it stops. Till it stops kind of unthreading. It doesn't move anymore. So now this is able to be removed. Sometimes it takes a little jiggling. Just gotta jiggle it a little bit, a little twist there. Get that out of there. I did not mean for that wheel to come out quite like that, but I just wanted to show this type of thing. Yeah, so Maxell brand is the one on this, and you can see how the one side has the threads which go through the entire hollow axle, and that gives you kind of a stiffer, supposedly more a stiffer and more secure attachment of the wheel to the bike. All right, so now that's it. That wheel is free. It's somewhat easier than the quick release, and maybe a little bit nicer. So to return the wheel to the spot, reverse the process. Okay. Doing it this way because this is how you're going to have to do it when you are out there on the trail, right? So when you're out on the trail, you're not going to have a work stand. It's not going to be convenient. Bike's going to be leaning up against a tree, or someone's going to be holding it, and you're going to have to work like this. So I'm purposely doing this to make it a little harder than it would be normally working at home. I'd have this up in a nice, easy work stand, and everything would go smoothly. So we get that in there, and now make sure the threads start catching on the other side. You should see this begin to move into and closer to the fork. And yeah, so it's gone all the way through. And now I want to make sure this is good and snug. so that that does not loosen up on you while you're out on the trail, because that sometimes can happen if that's not tight enough. And that's how you take off and put back one of these styles. And notice this bike also has the disc brake, so I made sure I did never touch the brake while I was doing any of this. I usually try to grab the handlebar right in the middle so I don't accidentally, by force of habit, grab a handful of brake lever and ruin my brake while the wheel is out. Removing and replacing the rear wheel on a bike like this with a through axle type of wheel mounting system is pretty much the same process as before, except we're dealing with, instead of the quick release, we're dealing with the through axle. And for the rear, usually approach it from the non-derailleur side. So it's on the other side of the bike. But on this one, this bike I have a different style of derailleur than the other bike, but it has a similar type of feature that allows me to remove the wheel more easily. And that is through, there's a little tiny button on here with a little picture of a lock on it. And so if I push from the bottom on the pulley part of this derailleur and push that lock, notice how it stays out of the way. That's a great thing. But something I forgot to do first was to shift this bike all the way down to the smallest cog in the rear. So to unlock that, I'm just gonna push this thing forward here. That click, it unlocks, and now the spring is loaded again. So basically that just takes away the spring tension on this. So what I have to do is to shift this bike, same way I did the last one. Shift, 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 shift. Lift the bike, spin the wheel, look at it. Is it all the way down? No, I have one more to go. One more click. There. I'm all the way to the smallest cog, as you can see right there. Beauty. Now, how do I get this wheel off? Let's repeat that process with the little locking mechanism. Push down on your derailleur all the way, push the lock. Now it is locked in, so I can more easily remove this wheel. I'm going to choose the right Allen key from my multi-tool. I will use this side this time. It's it's 1 millimeter smaller. Left, rotate counterclockwise, lefty-loosey, twist until, oh, I felt it disengage, so that means the threads are all the way out, and I should be able to just grab a hold of this side like this, pull that whole thing out. It's nice to be able to lay these parts down onto something. You're going to do this in the woods. You're going to put that down on the dirty ground, and it's the ground that's going to have some grease on it, probably a little bit, and then you're going to get everything stuck with grease. So if you can lay it down on your backpack or on a glove or something, anything that you have that would keep the dirt off of that, because you don't want to put that back on, especially with the threads on here. You know, you don't want to cover this thing with dirt. That's not going to be good for your system. So now I'm going to drop this right out. I'm going to pull this off to the side. Look at that. All right. Just get that wheel right out of there. And I can go to work on this and see what my flat tire problem is.